Hello, this is Irina from La La Land Crafts with the second video of the day. In the first video, I showed you how to make an embossing plate out of cardstock using our dies. If you didn't see that video, I'll post the link to the video below in the video description, so you can go ahead and take a look on how to do it. In this video, I'm going to show you how I used this embossing plate to emboss the layers on this window card and how to make the card all together. First, we're going to start with making the main layer with the window with our snow globe die. The die comes like this, and you'll need to use your wire cutters to separate it. So I already have mine separated. This is the snow globe, this is the base die. It also has this little decorative piece that goes on the bottom. And on the inside of the die, there is a reindeer and the Christmas trees, and also 2 stars, which I'm not using on this card. So first thing, I'm going to grab the layer. I already pre-cut it. I'm using this shiny, pretty white cardstock by Nina Papers, and this layer measures 4 by 4 inches. 4 by 4 inches. I also have a piece of the foam already pre-cut. This is not an adhesive foam. This is cut from this foam here. This is by the Reese and it's 3 millimeter. This is the foam that you can find at the craft area of your craft stores like Michael's, Joann's, Hobby Lobby. And it comes in different colors. I usually use either white or black. So I cut this piece at 3 3/4, 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. I'm going to grab my snow globe die and my cuttle bug. And I'm going to die cut the openings in both of the layers. I have my A plate here. I'm going to grab my C plate for cutting. I'm not using the shim because this is a pretty simple outline on this die. There's no detail, so I don't need an extra layer. I'm going to bring my cardstock and I'm going to position my die with the blade side down, so it's kissing my cardstock, and I'm going to center it as much as I can. If you have to use something to hold it, you can either use removable tape or washi tape to hold it in place. I'm simply resting it on my C plate, going to cover it with my B plate, and I'm going to run it through my cuttle bug just once. And again, because this is a simple outline die, you don't need to do anything more than that. So we have the negative circle that came from the middle, and we have our snow globe die cut, and we have our layer with opening. I'm going to set this aside for now. I'm going to now die cut the opening in my foam piece. Again, I'm going to put my die with the blade towards the foam, center it as much as you can, and again run it through your cuttle bug just once. And this is important with the foam, to run it only once and not use the shim, because it's kind of squishes and we don't want the layers to come outside of our main layers of the cardstock. So now, as you can see, my circle just pops out. I'm going to put it aside, and this layer the snow globe layer stays in, and I'm going to keep it in because that's all we need. We actually needed the same size of the circle and kind of lined up in the same way as for our cardstock. So I'm keeping it together like this. I'm going to put this aside as well. Now we're going to emboss this layer. The first one with the cardstock. As you can see, there's pretty embossed detail. It's kind of subtle, so it doesn't take away from the main design of the card, but it's still there and it makes cards so much more prettier. I'm going to grab my embossing plate, and this is made out of the chipboard. I'm going to change my plates. I'm still keeping my A plate. I'm putting my C plate aside. I'm going to bring my second B plate. Now I'm going to put my embossing plate with the snowflakes, with the design on the top. And I'm going to put my layer with the opening for the snow globe face down. And then I'm going to use the rubber mat. Now this is embossing plate. We didn't make embossing folder. If you have plastic embossing folders, you have the paper inside and it pushes the paper from one side and it has the space in the other side of the folder for the paper to press against. In this case, we only have one layer, one plate. So we need to use the rubber mat so the paper has place to push into. Rubber mat on top, and then I'm using my second B plate to cover this. And again, I'm only going to run through once. Look how gorgeous this turns out. The reason I cut out the opening first and then emboss this layer instead of embossing and then die cutting, because I didn't want to press into the detail by running it through the machine again once it's already die cut. So I cut out the opening first and then I embossed the layer. Now I'm also going to emboss another layer, which is on the back right here behind our main panel. And this layer measures 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. Again, I'm going to I have my A plate, my B plate, my embossing plate made out of chipboard with the design facing up. I'm going to put my cardstock on top of the plate, going to cover it with the rubber mat, and my second B plate on top, and I'm going to run it through just once. Can you see it? So beautiful. Okay, done with the cuttle bug for now. Now we're going to assemble our card. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put my die cut snow globe back into the opening. So I'm going to put my opening facing down and my die cut as well facing down, and I'm going to use the double-sided tape to hold the die cut in place. I'm gonna go all the way around. And this double-sided tape will actually serve for two different things. It holds the die cut in place. You can see it. So pretty. But also it will hold the acetate for our window as well. So I'm going to remove the backing of the double-sided tape. And then I have the piece of the acetate already pre-cut. And it's just a small piece to cover this opening. And it measures 3 by 3. 3 inches by 3 inches. Now in my last video I mentioned that the embossing plate that I showed you that I already made, it's been used over 100 times, and you might think, why did I use it that much? Well, it's been used in one of our workshops where people made 2 cards, so each person made 2 cards with it. And then we had another event where people made cards with it as well, and the sample cards that I make. So I kind of counted roughly. So I say it's been used over 100 times. Okay, so here's my acetate, just clear, and I'm going to put it so it covers my opening, and we created the window. Now the piece that we cut out of the foam, we're going to put it behind like this, and you can see if you are a little bit, see, I wasn't really straight, or I wasn't really in the middle, so I need to cut a little bit on this side so the foam is not showing. And you can use your cutter or just simply use the scissors. Just make sure that when you put it on, the foam is not showing. And I'm going to use my double-sided tape again to attach this foam layer onto my window layer. I'm going to put the tape, instead of putting it on the foam, I'm actually going to put it on here, because I find it's easier to remove the backing of the double-sided tape if it's on the cardstock versus the foam. And it's okay to put it on the acetate as long as you're not showing, it's not showing from the window, you're good. Okay, so now remove the backing. I think the most time-consuming part of making this card is removing the backing from a double-sided tape. You're welcome to fast forward through this. You could use liquid adhesive on here, but I prefer double-sided tape, even if it takes a little longer. Now once you have all of the layers pre-cut and all of the die cuts pre-cut, it really doesn't take that long, besides this little annoying part of the double-sided tape. It doesn't take that long to make the card. But if you're making hundreds of cards or tens of cards for your friends and family for Christmas, that's probably not the best one. But I hope you can make a few for special people at least. For those who appreciate the handmade cards. Okay, so now I'm going to line up the opening and attach this layer nice and even, really pretty. So this layer is done. Now let's move on to the layer that's behind it so we can assemble our card. I'm going to grab the layer that we already embossed. That's our 4 3/4 by 4 3/4, and then I already pre-cut another layer that goes behind it. and this one is 5 by 5 inches. 5 by 5. I'm going to glue it on. Nice and even. And then to decorate the sides of the cards and the top, I already die cut 3 pieces with fancy doily border die, again available in our online store. And this design matches with the design of this little decorative piece from the bottom of the snow globe. So you see that it has the same design. Most of our dies are designed to work together to give you more options. So I'm going to put adhesive on 3 sides of my card, of my layer. And you can show as much or as little as you want. Just make sure it's straight. And most of our border dies measure 5 inches, so they're perfect for card making. And the last one. Beautiful. Now we're going to attach this layer onto our card base. My card base measures 5.5 by 11. 5.5 by 11, and it's scored at 5.5, and then it's folded to create the card base. I'm also using foam to attach this layer. You can use foam tape, of course, but I like how this foam gives nice and even layer when it's displayed on the front of the card. So I'm going to use my double-sided tape again. Well, let me tell you what. I'm not going to use the double-sided tape right now, just for the purpose of the video. You're going to use double-sided tape or some stronger adhesive, okay? This is just to hold it, to show you where it goes. So I'm not holding you up here too much. I want you to go and play and make cards instead, okay? So you will be using either double-sided tape or some kind of stronger adhesive. Not this. This is not going to hold it forever. I'll have to take it apart and redo it. But for the sake of the video, let's do this really quick. Okay, so this layer, this panel, goes on the front of my card. Now, before you put it on the front of your card, make sure that your card opens the right way. I like my cards opening from the top, from the bottom up, like this. If you like your cards opening sideways, make sure that you have positioned it the right way. We don't want it to be upside down. And we all know that at least once in our card making life, we've made that mistake. So let's go ahead and make sure that the layer goes the right way before we attach it. Here you go. Pretty. Now we're going to attach our window, but before we do that, we're going to put the images behind it. So we have our reindeer and Christmas trees inside of the window. I already pre-cut the heel, and this was cut with one of our dies called double stitched heels. It has stitching on both sides. I love it. It's such a basic die, but it seems like I'm using it on almost every card. So I'm using this part here with the rounded heel, and I'm going to use my window as a reference right now, and I'm going to see where my heel is going to go. Going kind of eyeball it about right there. Then I'm going to mentally mark where it's going to go, and I'm going to put the glue on the bottom of it. I'm not going to put the glue on the top because I'm going to tuck the Christmas trees behind it once it's on. So about here, let me see, maybe a little bit higher. Perfect. So now when I have my heel on, I'm going to create a scene with the little reindeer and 2 Christmas trees, and these are the part of the same snow globe die. Again, I'm going to position my reindeer and use my window as a reference to see where he needs to go. About right there. Again, I'm going to make a mental note where he is going, and going to go ahead and glue him on. Double check again. Perfect. Now I'm going to attach the trees. You can lift, remember how we didn't put the glue all the way, so you can lift the heel a little bit. And my second one. Now I could have made this card as a shaker, but I chose just to use it as a window. But to dress it up a little bit, I'm still using a few sequins. And to attach them, I'm going to use just a little bit of the glue. I'm going to squeeze liquid glue out on the scrap piece of paper. And then I'm going to use, I usually use the toothpick, but I don't see it handy. I'm going to use a little piece of the scrap paper, just the corner. And I'm going to put the little drop of the glue in the places where I want my rhinestones to go. And then I'm going to simply place them on. And when the glue dries, it will hold them in place. There's something on this one. I'm going to put the other different one on. Here we go. So now we just need to attach our window panel on the front. And again, you're going to use your double-sided tape. Remember, I'm using this just for the sake of the tutorial. Center it. Look at this, so beautiful. So now I'm going to attach the decorative piece from the bottom of the snow globe, and I'll use a little bit of the glue here. Here you go. So now the only thing that's left for the front of the card is to add pearls or rhinestones, whatever you prefer. I added them on the openings of the decorative piece here on the snow globe, and also 3 on each of the fancy doily borders. Now, as you know me, you know that I like decorating the insides of the card too, to follow the theme of the front of the card. So on the inside of this card, I used the negative circle that we die cut from the center of our snow globe, and I used it as a moon, and then I used reindeer 1, which matches the design of the small reindeer, so as I said, you're bringing the same theme to the inside of the card. And he is right here on the side, and I used the double stitched border on the bottom. And then on the back of the card, since I had the negative part of my double stitched border, I put it on the back of the card, and then I used my other reindeer, and this one is called reindeer 2, to add to the back of the card. Well, that concludes this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you decide to try some of this technique, if not making the whole card like that. Try making it in different colors. It doesn't have to be white. You can do white and gold. You can do red. Red metallic would be really, really pretty, or maybe even blue. So if you do, please make sure to share on our social media. You can share on our Facebook, in our Facebook group, or if you post it on your Pinterest board or on your Instagram, make sure that you tag us so I can go and find it. That's it for today. I'll see you soon. Much love.